New York City is expected to pay $12 million to the former Wall Street trader paralyzed in a 2020 police shooting. It's Tuesday, September 3rd, and this is your New York Daily News. Tuesday's forecast calls for sunny skies in New York City with a high near 76 and a low near 60. Before today's top story, 5 people have been shot at the West Indian Parade in Crown Heights, according to police. Shots rang out on Eastern Parkway near Franklin Avenue about 2:30 p.m. Monday, cops said. The condition of the 5 victims was not immediately clear. Police searched for evidence at Eastern Parkway and Franklin Avenue after a multiple shooting at the West Indian Day Parade on Monday. The NYPD deployed a fleet of drones, carefully placed surveillance cameras, and a massive deployment of officers to cover this weekend's Joubert celebration and West Indian Day Parade, which was marred by violence last year. Last year's incidents following the parade included a deadly shooting, a fight that erupted in gunfire, and an incident in which a man apparently shot himself in the foot, cops said. Find the latest updates on this story and more right now at nydailynews.com. New York City has agreed to pay $12 million to a former Wall Street trader paralyzed in a June 2020 pandemic-era police-involved shooting in Manhattan's East Village, the Daily News has learned. Payman Bahadurin has been permanently confined to a wheelchair without the use of his legs since he was shot by 2 NYPD officers just before 7 a.m. June 4, 2020, outside a bodega on 3rd Avenue near East 10th Street. Bahadurin was in the midst of a mental health episode and was carrying a knife in a sheath on his belt when he walked with his small dog to the bodega and got into a confrontation with 2 officers. But he had relinquished the knife in the store and was unarmed when he was shot outside the deli by 9th Precinct officers Jillian Suarez and Brian Rosansky. The NYPD determined the shooting was within guidelines, but taxpayers will now have to foot the massive bill for Bahadurin's continuing medical care and quality of life. Nicholas Paolucci, a law department spokesman, said this outcome brings a resolution to all parties. The city tried to have the lawsuit dismissed, arguing in part the officers felt in fear for their lives, but in a November 8, 2023 ruling, Manhattan Federal Court Judge Jesse Furman denied the motion. It is undisputed that he was unarmed at the time of the shooting, Furman wrote. The judge noted both Suarez and Rosansky said in depositions they did not see Bahadurin carrying a knife immediately before they shot him. A video shows that Lieutenant Luis Machado, the top-ranking cop on the scene, was holstering his firearm as Suarez and Rosansky fired theirs. Machado and another cop, Michael Murphy, each said in deposition they saw that Bahadurin was unarmed. Bahadurin, now 59 years old, is paralyzed below his waist but continues to suffer substantial pain despite the paralysis. He is unable to work and has to use a colostomy bag. Suarez, the daughter of NYPD officer Ramon Suarez, who was killed on 9/11, was transferred to a coveted role in the NYPD crime scene unit in October 2022. As the settlement talks were reaching a climax earlier in 2024, Suarez was promoted to detective investigator in January and promoted again to detective 3rd grade in May, NYPD personnel records show. Rosansky, still an officer, was transferred in November 2023 to the NYPD's Public Information Office, also considered a desirable post, the records show. On the day of the incident, Bahadurin left his apartment at about 6:30 a.m. with a small dog and a 12-inch Defender Extreme knife in a sheath attached to his belt and walked to the Healthy Green Gourmet Deli. He was in the midst of a manic episode exacerbated by nightly George Floyd protests outside his apartment, the news previously reported. As he entered the deli, Suarez and her partner Melissa Brown of the 9th Precinct also entered. According to the police account and body-worn camera video, Bahadurin began yelling at Brown and drew the knife and began waving it around and walking toward Brown. Brown fired her taser, but the prongs didn't reach Bahadurin's skin. Suarez took a couple of steps toward Bahadurin from behind him, then backed up and called for help from the doorway. Brown moved behind the counter. Bahadurin then demanded a pack of cigarettes from the deli clerk and placed the knife on the counter. The store employee grabbed the knife and handed it to Brown. Bahadurin, holding only a water bottle, then turned toward Suarez and shoved her backward out of the store. Officers Rosansky and Murphy and Lieutenant Machado then came running across the intersection. Video shows Bahadurin lunged at Suarez as she fearfully screamed, "Move back," 3 times. Bahadurin turned his back on Suarez and lunged at Machado. Rosansky and Suarez then each fired one shot, striking Bahadurin in the lower back and left arm. Machado is seen in video holstering his weapons, suggesting he did not believe Bahadurin was a threat. Bahadurin was charged with robbery and menacing a police officer. Those charges were later dismissed. For more on this story and for the latest in New York City politics, visit nydailynews.com and follow us on social media at nydailynews. Thanks for listening. My name is Imran Sheikh.
Spoken Layer.